Musaba's in the middle. Wednesday here could seal it. Gassman finds Musaba.
Now Bannon with a great ball in. Here's an opportunity. Palmer scores! Liam Palmer has scored for Sheffield Wednesday.
We're back to winning ways, but we don't like to do it the easy way. They always say don't back the early kickoff, and this was a prime coupon-busting performance as the team that hadn't lost so far this season come unstuck at Hillsborough. Hello and welcome to the Wednesday Tie-Dye podcast. I'm James Mappin, and alongside me, as he always is Matt Johnson. Matt, first of all, how are you, mate? All good?
Yeah, I'm great, mate, after this weekend. It's really, really nice to have a smile put back on your face, isn't it? And especially when it's the early kickoff, because it just makes the rest of your Saturday all the more sweet and your Sunday a lot more restful as well. So, yeah, really good this weekend, bud.
Yeah, it makes a change to be us talking about a win, and it's amazing what a win does as well for you, just in terms of your outlook of the whole weekend.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. Like the entire of today, nothing has been too much trouble. Course I'll do that. Course I can do this. Yeah, no problem whatsoever. Just give me 17 minutes to watch this behind the match day stuff. It's just it just makes everything so much sweeter.
Just wait 2 minutes. I'm just watching that Windass goal for the 18th time. I'm just watching that Max Lowe pass for the probably 54th time today. Yeah, exactly. Yes, I will cut the grass, but just leave me 2 minutes. Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing what a win can do. Before we get into the game and everything else, first of all, I just want to say, just send our condolences to the West Bromwich Albion fan that sadly passed away yesterday. No fan should ever go to a football match and never return. Our thoughts are with the fans, family and friends at this difficult time. Like I said, awful scenes that you shouldn't really see at the football. Let's get straight into the match, Matt, because normally we waffle on for 5 or 10 minutes, but we have got a hell of a lot to talk about in this game. Quite a lot of talking points that have come out of it. A lot of people have got involved in in the tweet that I put out earlier, so I will try and read out and discuss as much of them as we possibly can. But as always, we probably won't get through all of them. But let's start where we always start: the starting lineup. He made 2 changes, Danny. He brought in Ekwa for Bernard, which obviously was a forced change, and Ugbo came back in for Smith. So it was Beadle in goal, Palmer to Ekwa for Maywo, Valentin, Bannon, Charles and Johnson, Windass, Ugbo and Kabake. It wasn't Valentin, it was Valerie. I paused on that and I thought, I've got that wrong there. And I thought, no, I'm going to back myself here. But no, I got it 100% wrong there. So it was Valerie instead of Valentin. Like I said, 2 changes. What did you make to that starting lineup? And did you expect the players that came in to come in?
Yeah, I think so, really. I spoke last week, obviously, about the fact that I didn't see Michael Smith coming in for Ike Ugbo at Luton. But again, vice versa, I thought Michael Smith did incredibly well against Luton. I know we'll get on to touching on Ike Ugbo's performance overall, but I thought he probably, in terms of this particular game, was probably a little bit more suited than Michael Smith, perhaps, just because of the nature of the centre-halves who play for West Brom. Michael Ehekwe for Dishon Bernard was the only logical swap really that Danny could have made, in terms of it was the centre half who is currently third choice, it seems, in our pecking order, and you always know what you're going to get from Michael Ehekwe. He's got already a long understanding with Akin Famewo, obviously from kind of like the League One team and obviously last season as well. So yeah, no problems with the outlook and with the team itself. I was very pleased to see Olaf Kabatsky keeping his shirt as well after he was pulled off at half time against Luton.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah. Well, he should have been so lucky. I just think, I think ultimately that is currently, aside from maybe Dominic Iorfa, I think that's probably our strongest 11 that we're able to field at the minute. And honestly, if you'd have told me at the start of the season that included Liam Palmer, I'd have been quite surprised, and a Polish second division winger, I'd have been quite surprised as well. But yeah, it's the informed players at the minute. So yeah, no complaints from me really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same as you. Kind of pre-game, I thought exactly the same. Obviously, post-match, probably thought a little bit different, especially when it comes to Ike Ugbo. I thought we didn't do a great deal, but going into it, I'm quite happy that he stuck with that, 3 centre-halves, because I feel like, it might not be the way that he wants to play, but we look 100 times better playing that system than we do anything else. I don't know what it is. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why we're better than, in that system. It just feels like, I don't know, we just seem to create more chances. We seem a little bit more solid when it comes to defending at the back. And although we might give up a little bit of possession by playing that way, look, the last 3 performances have been far, far better than anything, other than the opening game of the season, which I put, which is more and more looking like a bit of a fluke, more than anything else. Everything worked for us and didn't work for Plymouth, because they've seemed to kick on a little bit since that, much to, everyone's disappointment, obviously wanting Wayne Rooney to fail. But yeah, I don't know why it seemed to work, but the thing is, it is working, and I'm just happy that Danny's stuck with something, and it's not, he might want to get, by the end of the season, it might be the opposite of last season. Last season he had to revert to something that something different. Maybe this season, when he gets to the latter third, maybe he might start implementing something that he actually wants us to do. But right now, at the moment, I'm just happy that he's sticking with that. What is it? 3-4-3, 5? I've no idea. Whatever. It's three centre backs. Put it that way.
Yeah, it's fluid, isn't it? And I think that's the thing. I know we'll come on to kind of like talk about the game in greater detail. And there was a distinctive system change after the substitutions were made. But I think ultimately the 3 at the back suits the players that we have at our disposal at the club, not just the ones who are available and fit at this point in time. Plymouth was an outlier. Sunderland probably gives you a more accurate representation of our players playing in that system and playing the way that he would like to. I think at the minute, the way in which that we set up just best suits what we are capable of. It also, as you say, and I'm really pleased that you've raised that point about it going back to what worked closer to the back end of last season, because actually the natural progression really is to not rip it up and start all over one summer. You want to ideally use that same system again and then build upon it and move gradually away from it as you bring players through the door who are more suited and more adapted to playing the way in which that you would like to. I credit Danny for trying it, in terms of I credit him for, look, this is how I'd like us to set up and I'd like us to set out. But also you've got to praise the flexibility as well, because this is, he's clearly taken a look at it, seen in far greater detail in the numbers than what we've all seen, and looked at, this is the way that this squad needs to play and needs to go moving forward to be ultimately successful in this division and competitive, which over the last 3 games, okay, results might not have gone for us, but we have definitely been much more competitive over the last 3 games than we have in the first 4 games.
Yeah, and it's no slight on Danny either. He might, even though he might want to be seen as this, forward-thinking young manager with playing the game that, everyone wants him to play, that modern way of playing football. I mean, look, we haven't resorted to hoofing it. The way I'm talking now is as if we've just gone, prime Wickham from that season when we were in League One, where they just all they do is hoof it up top. Obviously, we haven't done that. We did play some great football, a la the first goal that we scored, playing out from the back. But yeah, he has to. I think he has to realise that football is a bit of a. You have to make compromises sometimes. You have to work with what you've got. And even though he's been here for coming up to a calendar year now, he's had to kind of look at the squad and go, right, what is the best way of getting the most out of these players with the resources that he's got. And he's mentioned a few times about how it's a long-term project, and it is. Yeah. He's had one summer. He's had a January transfer window where he brought in loan players. All right, he signed one of them loan players, and the other one's come back on loan. But he's had a summer where he's brought predominantly free transfers in. Let's be right about it. So it's going to take time, and I think the thing is he has understood that, and he's you can see that in the way that we're playing now. Yeah. Overall thoughts then on the game. Obviously, it finished at 3-2. Thank God. 2-0 up. I'm not going to lie, at 2-2, I feared the worst. I thought, just at 2-0 up, I'm already thinking, where are we going to be in the league? How high up are we going to jump? Yeah, that's his first win since the opening day of the season. beating the league leaders. All this is going around in my head, and then the one goal went in. I'm like, oh, please no. And then the second one, I'm just like, come on! Like, I'm already seeing the headlines. World's unluckiest football club. When are we going to get any luck? We can't even buy a win. But yeah, we did it in the end, and it was relief. But if you look at the stats, Matt, if you didn't watch the game, so I'm guessing that second tier will be saying that Wednesday got hammered, but we're lucky to get a 3-2 win, because they do 0 and in-depth analysis. But I looked at the stats, and I'm like, have I watched a different game? Because it certainly didn't feel that way to me.
I think the second half felt like one-way traffic. I think that was probably more intentionally from us than the other way round. I think also the substitutions that West Brom made at half-time had a direct impact on the game. I think our system change, obviously, throughout the second half when we started making subs, going from kind of like that back three or that back five into sort of like a 3-4-3, really, through the period of time where, funnily enough, both West Brom goals came from. Really kind of like, we had a real kind of like moment and a wobble, and then we went back into, the minute Musaba put the ball back into the net, we went back to that really narrow sort of like feet, but like 5-3-2 at the back, really narrow, like making sure everything was really tight across the middle of the pitch so they couldn't play through you. Yeah, it was, again, I'll be honest, James, when the second one went in, my head was on Mars, like absolute Mars when that equaliser went in. It's the first time, I think, over the course of this season where I've properly lost my head when a second one has gone in. And that was to do with, I think, the nature of, you couldn't describe us as dominant in the first half, but you could describe us as attacking with threat and purpose and intent, which is, West Brom probably dictated the ball, which obviously was natural, but we had limited them to a very slow, more akin to sort of a West Brom performance of last year, rather than the performances that the Championship have seen from West Brom this year in terms of that quick motion forward. I thought Marvin Johnson, I know we'll come on to talk about individual players in a bit, but I thought Marvin Johnson really marshalled Tom Fellows excellently throughout the game. I thought Shea Charles was, I'm doing it again, James, I am falling in love with a lone player. If people thought my love for Jan Paveda was bad, you just wait until this ends. Jesus.
The only difference there is we had a chance of signing Jan Paveda. I'm not sure what world we need to be in where Shea Charles becomes a Sheffield Wednesday player on a permanent next season. I think we need to sell the ground and start playing at New York Stadium or something like that to fund that one. Even then, I think we'd be falling a little bit short.
100%. What we need between now and then is a couple of tax bills to come out from the club and it actually not be used for tax in any way, shape or form, and it all goes towards him.
Do you know what? Next minute it'll be the 4th kit, 5th kit, 6th kit, and 7th kit coming out.
It will be, and it'll be, I've got this deal on at lunchtime. It is a little bit more pricey. It's 15 quid for a tub of Pringles and a can of Coke, but trust me, it'll be worth it in the end.
It's the Shea Charles transfer fund deal.
Oh, man, yeah. But yeah, it is, like, ultimately, I think on the strength of the performance over the 90 minutes, I think, obviously, we heard from Ben on the preview show, and he was kind enough to send a voice note through yesterday. And he said he would always, as a West Brom fan, look at what the opposition have done well, and he was very open in admitting that actually we were good at limiting West Brom to the chances that they created. And I thought that was the summation of the game. Really, we were excellent at that. And when we did create chances, those chances were of a very high quality as opposed to the previous weeks, and we took them yesterday. Let's be honest as well. We took our chances yesterday. Okay, the Marvin Johnson one is a deflection and it's going wide in the initial instance. But the other two opportunities that we had were quality chances. I mean, the Windass one, he still has a lot to do, but he's still one, you could argue, you can still make an argument, he's still one-on-one with the keeper and he's in behind the back four. And the Anthony Musaba one's a tap-in. So they're high-quality chances. And I do think, had we come out of that game yesterday having taken a point, I think before the game we would have probably all have taken it. I think we would have all been incredibly deflated on 90 minutes had that finished 2-2. But ultimately 3-2, we've been talking about it over the past couple of weeks, haven't we? It comes in swings and roundabouts, it goes in cycles. We probably nick 3 points there, where actually any other given day that finishes 2-2 because West Brom just shut up shop.
Yeah, definitely. I've got to agree with Gary there. He says West Brom loads of possession but did very little with it. Yeah, I agree. But I think, they did little with it, but I think that was down to us. I think we were very deliberate in when we were defending and when we were out of possession. You could see the lines of, and we were allowing them to be in between the lines. But you could see that wherever the ball was, whether on the left-hand side or the right-hand side or through the middle, both Bannon and Charles were kind of blocking off any potential paths through. It weren't like man-to-man marking. It was just literally, you're just moving into areas to stop them from passing. And you're basically just saying to them, just come and run at me. Like, you've got to try and beat me if you're going to get past me. And and obviously we've looked at what West Brom do and found that was the most, the best way of stopping them. And we just stopped them playing football, I think, is the main thing. It's very easy, I feel, when you watch a game of football to say, oh, they're shit, or, they're not very good, or it's the worst team I've seen this season. Very rarely do you say, we've made them look shit. And I don't just mean us as in Sheffield Wednesday. Any football game that you watch, it's always like, oh, it's never a good performance. It's always they didn't turn up. I think you say it's a good performance from an attacking point of view. If you've scored 4 goals, you'll say, oh yeah, great performance there. But when it's a tight 1-0, you think, oh yeah, we've only beat them because they didn't turn up. But I always think that's never the case. Like, I think we stopped West Brom from playing, and we probably said to them, have the ball. Do you know what I mean? Like we're probably better without it than what we are with it, to be honest, at the moment. So why not? I mean, the possession, it does differ depending on where you look, but while we're looking at 31% to 69%, which is mad. 4 of the first 7 games, should I say, have been 50% or less. That was Sunderland, Luton and Leeds. And this is the only game so far this season where we have had less than 50% and won. I mean, it's only the second win that we've had all season, but the other 3 we'd lost. So, yeah, it's just... I don't know if that's going to be a blueprint for the next game. I'm not too sure.
I mean, I think the thing is, James, like we have to go back to this. Bin the pre-season optimism off for a second. We actually do have to stop and realise, like, in terms of quality in our ranks, to dominate that West Brom side and go toe to toe with them and try and play a similar style of football, which is, I'm sure, what Danny is trying to get to in terms of that. Dominate possession, try and play through your lines. When the opportunity is to go wide, get good crosses into the box, hope your forward finishes it. The fact is, at this point in time, we don't have the ability in our ranks to dominate top teams with the ball. We are much better, as you've said, being compact and playing forward with a purpose. And at the minute, the blend, over the last 3 games, that blend is exactly right. It's taken us a little while to get there, and again, we probably haven't got what we've deserved from the previous 2, because realistically, looking on the strength of the last 3 games, West Brom aside, you could probably say that the previous 2, we deserve 6 points from those. We definitely deserve the 3 points against QPR. Up until the sending off, we deserved the 3 points against Luton. And yesterday, we went and got the 3. Well, we basically went and snatched the 3 points after chucking away a 2-0 lead. So you could argue that actually we have deserved more than we've got. And it's rare that you can say that as a Sheffield Wednesday fan. But I think at the minute, actually, being really defensively compact, I thought one of the things that was so good about yesterday is the crowd didn't start getting on players' backs. Like there was no moaning, there was no complaining, there was no, when we did have the ball, there was no shouts of, oh, get it forward and all of this, and it's got to be quicker and it's got to be. There was none of that. There was an actual realisation and an acceptance that this is working. Like, so let's just stick with it and carry on with it.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that, let's get into kind of, the goals, but before we talk about Johnson's goal, although it has been credited as an own goal, but we'll say it's Johnson's. We'll give it him. If you're listening, Marvin, you can have that one for us. It's absolutely fine. Barry Bannon, is he on some sort of like goal bonus or something this season? Because the ball comes to, I think it's the ball comes into the box and one of the defenders tries clearing it, and the ball's bouncing. Barry Bannon just tips up with an overhead kick. I mean, if that would have gone in, I think I'd have just got up and left, to be fair. I'd have just walked out and gone, that's it, I'm done. Thank you very much. Because it was an audacious effort, weren't it?
From 18 yards out, I don't think I've seen a player attempt an overhead kick going away from goal as well. You might see a player run onto it and sort of scissor kick it and have a swing at it, but going away from goal with a ball that's looped, well, everything loops up over his head, sorry, Barry. But like, it's one of those where you just kind of sit there and think, what on earth is that? And I think it was the thing for me was the speed at which it travelled. I was like, that's surely never going in. But it was the keeper's reaction, because he properly scrambles over to the goalpost, and he is completely caught out by it. I think this is probably the best that we have seen from Bannon pre-COVID. In terms of overall performances, yes, you could say that he was a cut above in League One, but he was going to be because he was too good for that level. This is currently, this system, the player who's playing alongside him has allowed and released him to be exactly what me and you have been talking about since the start of this season. We need to now be facilitating Bannon to do exactly what he's doing for us, not asking him to do everything else. I am a big fan of Svante Ingolson, as is apparently every Sheffield Wednesday fan, with him being voted the August Player of the Season. I think that's probably more down to how shit we were for the rest of it by the Plymouth game. But at the moment, he is rightly having to sit and wait his turn because we've got two central midfielders in there, and you can chuck Liam Palmer in there and Jan Valery, who rotates into there, Josh Windass, who fits in there as well, who are working really, really well, and ultimately it's getting the best out of our most creative player. He is finding pockets of space all over the pitch in really, really dangerous areas where he can hurt teams. We are not asking him to do all of the horrible, dirty work and release it for other players who don't have the technical ability or the technical quality that he has to go and make something happen. We are finding him in really dangerous areas. I know we're going to come on to the goal in a second, but ultimately it was of no surprise to me that when Palmer zings the ball out, it's Barry Bannon who's in acres of space because he has gone and been allowed to drift and find a different area of the pitch to pick up the ball in, drive forward, lay a perfect pass into Marvin. It's perfectly weighted again into Marvin Johnson's feet, and we've gone from there. But he did that all afternoon yesterday, and it is quite funny after we play teams, especially like the last two games with the last three games with QPR and Luton and West Brom, seeing their fans on social media going, how on earth is he still running games for this lot? Which the last three, I don't think anybody who's been at those last three games can argue he has been our best over the three players. And I am really pleased that he's now got to that milestone of 100 goals and 100 goals and assists for the club. Because again, it's an accolade that I think when he first walked into the club and we first watched him for those first two seasons, and we were like, oh my God, we've got a magician here. Yeah. It is something that not a lot of players will do in the modern era of Sheffield Wednesday, and it's something that's fully deserved for him. Yeah, 100%. And, he has come under criticism, but I think he just, time after time after time, he just silences those critics and just does exactly what he did yesterday. Influential in two of the goals. Not only that, like you said, I mean, Lamini Pies put it in there. The Charles effect for sure, 100%. And we've said it time and time again. He needs someone alongside him to allow him to do what he does best. And with Shea Charles, he's got that one, and not only having someone alongside him, he's got to have someone alongside him that he trusts as well. Yeah. Because if you can 100% see when he doesn't trust someone because he's still doing it, and you end up having doubling up, and then there's too many players in that in that kind of back line, and you've got nothing going forward. But he's certainly doing it. Yeah, let's talk about the goal then, playing out from the back as well, which there was I think the initial pass into, I think it's Shea Charles, it's a bit like, a sharp intake of breath because there's a couple of people on him, but he just plays it round the corner, and then, two passes later, them players that have tried to close him down are totally out of the game. And then, you can see it's been worked on the training ground. I mean, whether or not, the final shot is what they wanted from on the training ground or not, but, the ball down the right-hand side, then as you mentioned, it gets fizzed into Bannon, perfectly weighted for Johnson. I mean, that's bang in front of me where the ball gets played into him. He's just shouting like, pass, like you're going apoplectic, like he's there, just pass it to him. Yeah, and lays it off. And I've been seeing it time after time as well. When you get into them areas that Johnson got into, I mean, he gets you can say he's slightly fortunate with the deflection, but you've just got to fire it in because you do not know what's going to happen. And for exactly that, it gets a deflection. It kind of flicks it over the goalkeeper's hand and ends up in the bottom corner. If it doesn't hit him, I think it was Windass who were kind of coming in late. He would have just got a touch on it, and it's probably going in anyway. So, yeah, I think all in all, a fantastically well worked goal from back to front, and it just shows that football's quite easy when you know how to play it, I guess. Yeah, and I think you see with that goal the real fluidity of that midfield and defensive positions that we've got now with Jan Valery out there and Marvin Johnson as well, in terms of at the start of that move where kind of like there's the breakdown in possession and we pick it up. Actually, Bannon, to get free further up the pitch, actually ends up in a left-back position. helping out his kind of defenders. Yeah, I agree with you. The reverse, the ball into Shea Charles, I think over the years when we've watched, this is no slight on him because I know a lot of Sheffield Wednesday fans have a lot of time for Will Vaulks, but the amount of times that we would watch that ball go into a central midfield position last year and it would go to Will Vaulks and he would take a touch and then play it rather than do what Shea Charles does, which is just pop it straight round the corner. And again, it then goes into a heckler. I think Windass does really well again. We've seen less of it, I suppose, since the system change, but actually seeing Windass coming deeper and dropping deeper to receive the ball and then reversing the ball into Palmer to split the two midfielders is really, really clever because, again, aside from Bannon, Windass is probably the only other player on the pitch who spots that little inside movement from Palmer. The ball to Bannon is good. The ball from Johnson is good. Again, I think it's either Windass or Kabatsky who's in the centre ready to tap it in. At that point, I thought we were thoroughly deserving of the lead. I know it was only 10 minutes into the game, but we had started really, really well. And yeah, I don't think there was anybody who watched that first 10 minutes yesterday and could really argue from kind of like the start and the lead that we'd taken. I know it will have shocked people who weren't watching the game and just watching it come through on sort of like the ticker or if they were watching the game on Sky. But yeah, we were thoroughly deserving of that 1-0 lead at that point in the game for sure.
I mean, at that point, I think that were our third shot. West Brom had not even had any, and I think it took them up to nearly 20 minutes until they even had an attempt on our goal, which just shows how, like you said there, it wasn't dominant, but it was just limiting them to very little, you know. And it was just a great start, I thought, and there is an element of, can you score too early? But for me, I think it was, I think for me, I think it was more of a, we've finished a chance. Do you know what I mean? All right, it's gone down as an own goal, but how many times have we got to half time and gone, fucking hell, it's 0-0. We should be winning this game. And then, the opposition come out, all guns blazing, and before you know it, you've lost the game. It's happened far too many times that I can remember. But the difference, in the first half especially, was we put the chances away that we created. And we didn't have to wait very long for the second one. And my God, again, I'm banging line with it. I sit literally a gnat's hair outside the 18-yard box. That's where my line is, obviously on the north stand. And that ball comes up. I totally did not expect it. And at first, I thought he's well offside there because he was like 3-4 yards in front of the defender. Like, what are the defenders doing? I have no idea. But, like you mentioned earlier, Windass has all the work to do, but the keeper's in absolute no man's land, isn't he, really? He's really pushed up. And Robin van Persie did that was it the Euros or the World Cup? One of the two. And people were, talking about that still talking about it now. It's not far off the same. All right, he didn't quite have the diving header, but to have the vision to see him off his line and to just to head it in. By the way, did you see the guy that had the bet as well on Saturday?
Oh, the Windass header outside the area for a 1,000 to 1, and he put a quid on.
Yeah, but it was.
Who the fuck looks at that, by the way? Like, who looks at that and goes, "Yeah, money well spent"?
Yeah, but it was two separate bets. It was it was a double. It was Windass to score from outside the box and Windass to score a header. It wasn't to Windass to score a header from outside the box. So for him to do it on the same goal, is absolutely unreal. And Ben, I think it was who had that bet. So hats off to you, mate. And hope you spend your £1,000 wisely. It's funny, actually. Incidentally, we are going to be talking about gambling in football, on extra time. So if you want to listen to that one, do head over to patreon.com/WTID pod. We've got lots of things to talk about that subject. Obviously, with the ban on gambling sponsors and things like that. So make sure you tune into that one. But I was in dreamland, me, Matt. 2-0 up, 23 minutes gone, league leaders, not lost all season. We're making it look pretty easy.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's the movement that you see from Windass there, which is so clever. Because as, go back to where the throw-in's taken from. The throw-in's taken from the edge of their 18-yard area. Now, had this been a year ago, Sheffield Wednesday, just taken over by Danny Roll, that goes to Will Vaulks, Callum Patterson, or this season it goes to Svante Ingelsson on the pitch, and we just launch it in the box and try and get a knockdown or something like that. We take a quick free kick we take a quick throw-in that goes all the way back into our own half. and then we adjust in terms of those front lines to allow Windass to bend that run in. Like Danny spoke after the game about having 15, 20-minute chats with players, and Akin Famewo has come out afterwards and said that he and Windass spoke about kind of like that long ball over the top as well. And that you could see had come from those conversations, whether it was something that had been worked on in the training ground, or it was something that I think Danny had spotted, that they beforehand, that West Brom, when they are defending, they do tend to, when they go out, they do tend to get out very quickly, and there is a lot of space in behind. Just going back to the finish, Josh Windass makes that look incredibly easy.
Yeah, have you tried to do that, by the way?
Yeah, that is impossible. Such a difficult skill. Yeah,
it looks so easy, like you've just mentioned, to be running. To see the ball coming over, you've got to run to get in the right place. I have a cheeky look at where the goalkeeper is, and then provide a header over the goalkeeper into the goal. Like, I mean, I'm not being funny. I could probably try that, even with the same ball. If Akin Famewo could play the same ball every time, I think I have 100 goes. I'd probably don't hit the target once. Yeah,
because the other thing is he's actually got a lot of work to do with his neck muscles. I was nearly about to try and flick it on myself, but he's got so much work to do with his neck muscles, because actually it's not one of those that you can just glance on past the keeper on the floor, because he's so far out. And actually Alex Palmer, I think when he ends up landing on the floor, he probably lands around the 6-yard area. Don't get me wrong, he is off his line, and again, from a West Brom perspective, you'd be absolutely fuming at the fact that a 50-yard straight ball and a looping header from outside the box has got you 2-0 down. Yeah. But again, as that ball comes over, as you say, he's actually got so much to do to get the height on it, to get it to come, to get the pace on it as well. Because if he just puts the height on it, Palmer just walks back and either tips it over the bar or just calmly collects it. Yeah. The timing on it is absolutely perfect. And again, I think it will be one of those underrated goals that you occasionally see Windass score and you go, how the fuck's he done that? But then it goes from your memory because it looks so easy and it looks so effortless.
The ball bounces on the line, doesn't it? It don't go in the goal. It actually bounces on the line before it goes in. And when you watch it back, it does look like it's in slow motion. The way that the keeper, is going the way. I mean, very akin to the second goal that West Brom score in terms of the way that the keeper looks, going backwards. But like I said earlier, absolute dreamland, 2-0 up, and you know what though, I felt like we were good value for that 2-goal lead as well. Because West Brom had hardly threatened us. We'd kept them at arm's length. Anything that they did try, was the passes were going astray or going long. Centre backs were passing it out, and not getting it where they want it to go. By the way, is it Akanji? Maybe I've said his name wrong there, but he was absolutely massive. Shemi Ajayi, who was at Rotherham. He's a big unit. He is about 7'6", that kid. He is, and there was one point where he was running with Barry Bannon, and Barry Bannon was trying to get round him, and it was like. It was like trying to
in the corner when he was in the corner of the Copper North, wasn't it? And he was trying to get round him, and then he turned round. And I think he was thinking, "I'm going to scream at whoever's played me that ball." And it was just like he turned round and just thought, "I can't be arsed. Like I'm never." He didn't even shift him. Do you know what? I've looked. I'm saying only. He's only 6'4". Yeah, but he looks like he's about 6'7". I think, and I think. He's had a very interesting kind of career at West Brom in terms of up until Corberan came in, really, and up until I suppose really like the last 18 months, he's been in and out of that side really. Every West Brom fan will say that he's a good player, but he's been in and out of that side really. But again, I thought, just going back to the starting lineup, I thought that was the obvious choice with Ike Ugbo as opposed to Michael Smith, because actually Ike Ugbo is going to not only do the defensive work of it, but he is also potentially going to drag those players into areas that they don't want to do, because he's not somebody who wins, as we fucking saw yesterday, he's not somebody who wins a lot of headers. He is somebody who likes to drop off those defenders, because nicest will in the world, what is the point in whipping the ball in the air against them two? Because they're going to win. They're going to win 99 times out of 100. Ball's just going to go straight back out the box because it's Kyle Bartley who's alongside him, who is also an absolute massive unit. So again, I think when you look across that back line, and that was, I suppose, what made the Windass goal even better, is because the run has to be perfect, the ball has to be perfect, because it's dropped in behind the centre halves, and you would think both of those will be 6 foot plus. The ball has to be executed absolutely to precision for it to actually give the striker even a half chance of putting it into the back of the net. So yeah, all round a really good goal.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing as well, before we move on, I feel like Windass needed that goal. I know he's already scored this season, but he has missed a few chances in recent games. You know, the Luton one was, he's still kicking himself now, but yeah, I felt like for him to get that goal, it is like, yes, like you don't want to go too long missing chances before people start. I mean, people already start talking anyway, but you've got to keep them goals coming in, and especially I do feel like he could score a hell of a lot more, and maybe this is the season where he's going to do that. Fingers crossed it is, and like I say, he's already got 2 goals already, matching Barry Bannon. He's already got 2 goals as well. Before I talk about the second half and everything else, the referee. We talked a lot about referees last season. I said about Barry Bannon being on some sort of bonus for goals. I think the referee was on some sort of bonus for how many yellow cards he can dish out for absolutely nothing, because he was giving them away like raffle tickets. Ben Toner was the referee yesterday. He averages, I've had a look, averages 5 yellow cards a game. He booked 8 yesterday, and you look at that, 8 yellow cards, and you think, fuck hell, that was a dirty game. But it wasn't, was it? It wasn't a dirty game in the slightest. I think there was one mistimed challenge that I want to say Firmay will put on in front of the south stand. That was about it.
Which was very much Akin Firmay from last year against West Brom, where he got beat by was it Darnell Furlong for their goal? We spoke beforehand in terms of recording. I'm kind of a little bit of a crossroad here with the referee, because actually one thing that he did do yesterday was consistently apply the law of time wasting consistently, and he booked players for it from both sides. Now, if I'm going all defensive here and trying to defend the referee, because we've given them plenty of stick over the past couple of weeks, what that did definitely do is ensure that there was nobody who was going to disrupt the rhythm of that game by intentionally continuing to time waste over the entire game. He was doing it for both sides. I think there was a booking for West Brom for dissent as well, which was the most clear and obvious form of dissent that you'll ever see.
That was so funny. He's given a foul away. The Svante Ingelsson wannabe lookalike. Is what I want to call him. But yeah, he's given a foul away. He's picked the ball up, absolute head loss, tantrum. Just chucked the ball on the ground like, you see, my young lad, he's only 3 years old. That's what he does when he don't get his own way. But not for grown footballers.
He gave Windass one, obviously, for kicking the ball away, which was the one that ended up just on the top of the net. But again, I think that one, at half time, you could see Windass talking to the linesman as he was coming off and basically saying, I couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear the whistle. But again, that does happen. You get that. Not just not hearing the whistle, but you do get players booked for that quite consistently.
For me, though, on that, he's kicking the ball away and he's kicking the ball away. Do you know what I mean? Like he's had a go. He's had a genuine attempt at goal, which he would have done if it wasn't. It's not like, oh, whistle's gone. Fuck it, I'm just gonna have a shot. Yeah, I think he was lining that up, and this kicking the ball away where the player comes down to pick it up and you boot and you kick it beforehand and it rolls away. Yeah. There's that, which is genuine time wasting, and I feel like he's probably following the letter of the law, but not applying a great deal of common sense. I mean, the one that baffled me, right at the end, then Beadle gets booked. He's not even got to the fucking ball. I mean, come on, give him a chance. I mean, I know he was, he was really pushing it, Beadle, which fair play to him, because we only last week are we saying that his game management is absolutely appalling. So fair play, he's done something about it, but. Like, come on, let him get to the ball first before you accuse him of time wasting. He's in his net, and the free kick was like probably 5 yards from the halfway line.
Yeah, and that was the one I think where I was sat there and thinking, I wonder if this is some directive from referees, because at the minute, whether it be time wasting or kicking the ball away, there does seem to be a push, not just against Sheffield Wednesday, but across all leagues. We've seen it in Premier Leagues, we've seen it in Championship as well. I'm sure it's going on at League One and League Two level also, but who gives a fuck 'cause we're not there. In terms of kicking the ball away, the biggest and most high profile one that I think we've seen in the past couple of weeks is the Trossard and Rice ones for Arsenal. And actually, the Rice one, I'm convinced there's nobody who's going to tell me the first time they watched that Rice incident and then go, "What the fuck's he been booked for? Like, what's he gone off for?" And I think the same was said for yesterday with Windass's one. And I completely understand where you're coming from, but that to me smacks of there is some sort of officiating that's come down from PGMOL or whatever it is that basically says any form of kicking the ball away, you give a yellow card to try and stop it, and we're going to try and push that. You know, like they have those rules refreshes or pushes for a couple of weeks, and then it disappears and everybody goes back to normal.
Yeah,
but
it makes me laugh though, like stuff like that though. This ball, we've got a multi-ball system. There's balls all around it. Like if he kicks it and it goes into the stand, like it's not like you've got to wait 10 minutes for the ball to come back. Literally, another ball will just come on the pitch. I mean, that didn't happen anyway. Like it was only just over the bar and landed on the roof of the net. It's like. I don't know. It just, for me as well, go back into the whole, oh, woe me, Sheffield Wednesday. Why is it that whenever we're behind and another team's time wasting, it's like the referee just turns a blind eye to it. When it's us that is in the ascendancy, it's like, I don't know if we're just shit at time wasting. I've come to that conclusion. Like we just can't do it. Like we're just blatantly obvious at doing it, because we seem to, every time we try it, these yellow cards get dished out here, there, and everywhere. If it were shooting on the other foot, West Brom tried it. I bet you bottom dollar the referee would have turned a blind eye. But as it happened, they didn't need to do any time wasted, did they? When you're 2-0 down.
No, and that is, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Is, you know, it was better yesterday in terms of game management, but we are still blatantly obvious when we are trying to manage a game. Like, what you could have had happen there is one of your centre midfielders just sits on the floor with cramp. Because I think it was, you know, just Bannon goes down with cramp, or Palmer goes down with cramp as people are walking away from the ball, or somebody chucks the ball to James Beadle and then he comes back and he's mucking about with a spot of where the free kick is from. It's those little things which, they take exactly the same amount of time, but again, it goes back into that sort of like time wasting, how you... I suppose we're nitpicking here, aren't we? But it goes back into that kind of like, yes, everybody does it, but it's how you do it that avoids those yellow card situations rather than... Because to be fair, if we are going for that, you know, there was a player who was 4 yards away who lined up to take the free kick and then clearly went, "Oh no, keeper can have this," and started running off. And then actually he could have booked any one of the... he could have booked either... I think was it Valerie? He could have booked either Valerie... Yeah, he could have booked either Valerie or...
Sure, it went Paul Valentin.
Could have been Paul Valentin, yeah. But ultimately, it is what it is. Like there was a lot of red cards, yellow cards in the game. But you know, again, I suppose I'd much rather see a game that's fully yellow card. Again, it's on a stat sheet and it didn't feel combative. But I'd much rather see a game where we're playing against top of the league, where you take a few more than your league average or your game average to actually ensure that you see the game out, which ultimately we did yesterday. Yeah, definitely. I'd rather be talking about refs having won 3 points rather than last week where we came with absolutely nothing as well. Yeah. We've touched on I've got things down here, but in interest of time, we'll skip on. But second half, it did feel like it was very much batten down the hatches and just kind of, let's make sure we take this 2-0 lead right to the end. And I feel like I knew West Brom were kind of going to come at us a little bit. Maybe they didn't as much as what I first thought, but I thought first 10 minutes it's going to be all hands to the pump and trying to be as tight as we possibly can, limit them to very few chances. And I thought we, on the whole, we did that pretty well. Were you happy with the way that we came out for that second half, or did you feel like it was a bit, we could throw this away here, which we very nearly did? I mean, like, what is the alternative Sunderland, where you go out and really attack teams who are obviously better than you? in terms of, on the day we were better than West Brom and the scoreline suggests that. But actually, if you just go player for player, that West Brom side is better than our side. So if you go out and try and match them, you're going to get picked apart. And we saw that later in the second half when we made the shape changes. West Brom did pick us apart for 2 goals. Okay, the 2 goals come differently, but the pressure was building and building and building and building up until the first goal. And then we conceded 2 in quick succession again. I would much rather us sit in a very solid shape with a plan and continue to do that. The only bugbear that I do have with it, and it will lead into when we talk about the second goal, is why when there is a set piece that is for the opposition anywhere around our box, whether it be a free kick, a throw in, a corner, why we do not just leave one player as far up the pitch as we possibly can on a wing. So all you have to do is hoof the ball in that general area and tell that player, if you can't control it, make sure you win a foul. That is so simple in terms of advancing your team up the pitch. And I get that there will be systems, and I get that there will be hopefully set-piece routines, both positive and negative with the coaching hires. But I would much rather us sit in that sort of a, I don't know whether you call it a low or a narrow or a mid block. I don't really know the terminology for it, but I'd much rather.
Don't look at me for that one. I ain't got a fucking clue. Playing in the 6, in the 8, in the 10, zone 12. We'll get onto zones in a bit, when we'll really go full XG and piss people off. But anyway,
massive, big anorak style. But I'd much rather us sit and do that and actually say to a side who, the changes that they made at the break did make an impact. I'll be honest, I've never rated Alex Mowatt very highly. Yesterday, I thought he had a massive impact on West Brom when he came onto the pitch, in terms of he freed up John Swift, who was at the side of him, who up to that point had been relatively anonymous. Every time he picked up the ball, he looked to progress it forward, whether that be out wide or trying to go through the middle. Everything he attempted was a forward pass yesterday. He'd get on the ball and turn, right, where can I go forward here? And I think that when we then started making subs, I think the difference is you looked at the subs that West Brom brought on are of a similar quality or of still a very high quality, and you look at the subs that we were bringing on, and when we were bringing on those first subs and we moved Marvin Johnson up to that left wing or left midfield position, and we dropped Max Lowe back into sort of like the back line, immediately alarm bells are ringing, because that was the first time all day that Tom Fellows had got any change out of a wing back, and he was half a yard off him, you'd argue, Max Lowe. He's maybe 2-3 yards away from him, and the delivery into the box, and then bang, it's 2-1. And then their tails are up, and they are finding those little pockets, and they are playing through the lines. And I think there was it was Tom TW Football who highlighted that when the subs were made, we went from kind of that big back 5, break us down, very narrow system, to it then became a 3-4-3, and it didn't really look too good, and West Brom started playing through those thirds. And it was, after I'd read the tweet and I went back and had a look at kind of like the game and the highlights from it around those points, those are the only opportunities where West Brom actually got any joy through the middle of our pitch. Okay, ultimately the ball might have gone wide from the end of that as a result, but that's where a lot of their attacking moments started from, is that ball goes into the middle of the park, but the player's free. He can then either drive forward with it, play it into a forward and bounce it off them and get it back, or he whips it out wide, because that is where West Brom hurt you. Last year, what we saw is get the ball wide and let those players run at you, which was, Mikey Johnston, Jed Wallace, whoever. This year, it's very much suck you in to draw you into the middle of the pitch, then get the ball wide, because everybody knows they're a threat. So again, I think it's with that second goal, really, you see sort of where it didn't work for us in terms of that system change, which kind of highlights exactly why we need to stick with what we were doing and why that's the right thing to do for this Sheffield Wednesday team.
Yeah, with their first goal, you mentioned it there. We made the sub and it came down that side. Initially, when I saw that Max Lowe was coming on, I thought Johnson was coming off, because he was down, weren't he, for a minute or two just prior to that, and I thought, he's picked up a little knock or an injury or something like that. And then when I saw that he stayed on, I thought, I know the goal came not long after the sub, but I was thinking Johnson's having a decent game here. He's actually, he's got a goal. He's matching their lad on that side, pound for pound. He's not letting him get past him. And it's always difficult, I think, sometimes when you come into a game as a sub, especially from a defensive point of view, because it's in a game, it takes you 5 minutes or so to work out kind of what's happening, you know, in terms of, you know, what am I up against, and obviously. Yeah. Marvin Johnson had done that already in the game, and he got the measure of him. And psychologically as well, as a winger, if you can't get past your opponent, you just, it's kind of a bit defeatist in a way, aren't you? Like thinking, oh fuck, I can't get past him, can't do what I want to do. And then when someone else comes on, you think, I've got a chance here, you know. And obviously that's exactly what happened. And you know, the ball comes in, Lowe doesn't stop the cross, and I've got to dig Palmer out here, because when I've watched it back, I look at it and think, oh, where's Madja come from? And I'm like, Palmer's in a great starting position. He's got him. He's goal side, and then you know you roll it on a few seconds, and next minute Madja's just gone past him like he weren't even there. You know, if you look at where he scores the goal, you're thinking, like, how does it get from there to where it was, you know, a few seconds before? But yeah, I mean, it's another goal that I felt was avoidable, but I think we perhaps have a different outlook on it.
I think it is avoidable, but I think it's avoidable in the stopping of the cross, personally. I mean, again, in defence of Liam Palmer, I completely take the points of what you're saying, and I suppose it's whichever way you see it, really. I think the movement from Josh Maja is outstanding, because, as you say, Palmer has got him and he's got his arm on him to try and stop him, and he actually feints to go in front of him and then goes around the back of him. And you can see when the ball hits the back of the net, like Liam Palmer's smacking his hand on the floor because he knows he's just been done. Like it's not like, you know, he's been bullied or like he's not ready. He's just been completely done by some very, you know, it's a step to one side and he goes the other way, but it is clever movement. My issue with, and this is not wanting to jump on that I hate Max Lowe bandwagon, because he plays a fantastic ball for the winner.
I'll get you a T-shirt next week, Matt.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, Tom. My issue is, and as you say, it's because he's come into the game cold, is, as you say, Tom Fellows, I think, listening to Sheffield Wednesday fans yesterday, there was a lot of, well, I don't understand what's all fuss about him. He's not that good. No, he is a good player, but he's a young player. And what you're, I suppose, seeing at this point in time is, and this is a lofty comparison, I admit it at this point in time, is you're perhaps seeing the closest thing to the Championship to what Jack Clark was when he first came into the division, in terms of completely different type of player, same age profile, go about their business completely differently, but both very effective and very dangerous. It was the first time, again, when you go back and watch the highlights of it, that if that's the first half, Marvin Johnson is right on him and right up against him and forces him out wide or forces the ball for a corner. I mean, fuck it, we'd have conceded from the corner anyway. But, you know, he forces him into a more difficult decision. It was almost like, as you had said, Max Lowe's come into the game cold. Tom Fellows has had no change at all. He sees the swap and goes, right, first opportunity, I'm getting to the byline and I'm getting a ball in. I think the ball's good as well. Like, the ball is good. It's one that we saw from, similar to the one that we saw from Marvin Johnson for Ike Ugbo's goal against Birmingham last year, where it's that floated, lofted one that takes out all of your centre-backs, your keeper, everything. And actually, again, like, Michael Heck was unlucky not to clear that off the line. Like, he only just goes past him. He only just goes the wrong side of the ball. So, again, I suppose you've got to kind of credit the delivery in, and the header from Josh Maja is exactly what every single kid is taught as a potential forward, is put the ball back where it's come from. Don't try and go for that near post. Put the ball back where it's come from, and you've got a high chance of scoring, which is exactly what he does. Frustrating, because up until that point, I think we'd done well in marshalling them, but that was that little 5-minute period before West Brom had started to creep back into the game, and the amount of attacking talent that they chucked onto the pitch. I'm not surprised that there was a goal sort of around that period of time when it came in the game, really.
Yeah, Mac, a quick one. It's now 500 days since we last had a penalty at the in the second leg of the Peterborough playoff semi-final. It's more than that if you want to take it just from league. I know obviously the playoffs is in the league, but you know, in regular time, as so to speak, it's been a hell of a lot of games. We had a little bit of a shout with Anthony Musaba. I mean, everyone says Anthony Musaba's quick. I think he's quick without the ball. With the ball, he needs to work on his pace in possession, because he stole the march on the lad, and he managed to get back and and put a bit of a challenge in. Is it a penalty for you or not?
Oh, God, no. God, no. As you say, he's lightning when he can kick the ball 10 yards in front of him and run. When it comes to a decision-making, for God's sake, take a touch and get a shot off. Like, you've got no idea what's going to happen. And I would assume, from what we've seen of Anthony Musaba, he's quite good at that. You don't need to try and take another one. You don't. The closer you get to the goalkeeper, all you're doing is making it more difficult. Because Alex Palmer comes out, covers the angle. Even if he had got a shot off and not hit the deck, he's not scoring. The angle is too tight, the keeper's in his face, and he's got a centre-half on him. It would have to be a magic finish to dink it over him, and he's not going to do it. It's that, I suppose, again, Danny spoke about it in the week in terms of that he wasn't happy with him, but his overall performance and what he did later in the game completely makes up for it, and everything that I'm talking is pure shite. But he's got to get a shot off there. That is, of the penalty shouts that we've had over the past couple of weeks, that is the least likely to be given in my eyes.
Yeah, I have to agree. I did shout. I'm going to admit I did shout at the time. Of course. But you've got to in the moment, haven't you?
Yeah.
But yeah. Now, they scored on the 84 minutes, make it 2-2. I'm going to stop doing these preview shows. I know you did last week, but every time we do one, I pick out the players to watch. I normally pick a couple out, and I need to put a tenner on these when I do, because this week, I mean, obviously Maja, he's scored. He was 6 in 6. He's now 7 in 7. And the other player that I picked out was Mowat, who didn't start, came off the bench, and yes, he scored that second goal. I mean, yeah, I only picked him out because he was the highest rated player on Who Scored, for no other reason. I do, yeah. My analysis is that deep, but yeah, the goal, it's a long throw, half dealt with, but another one. They've got two players on the edge of the box. I've seen this quite a few times. Nobody picking up any of the players there. You're practically giving them, a free shot. Like, yes, you can charge it down, but you're relying on someone to do that. If someone's there, they're under pressure, aren't they? But the ball comes out, and has he meant it? Has he meant to hit it into the floor like that? Because I'm undecided. I don't know whether he has actually meant to do it or not.
I think he meant to hit it into the floor because, again, we're going back to what we were saying with Josh Maja and it being what you taught as a kid. You're taught as a kid to hit that into the floor. Like, you're not taught to, get your head over it and try and zing it in the top corner. You're taught to get your head over it and hit it into the floor, which is exactly what he does. Ultimately, for me, it's just a freak finish. Like, it is, don't get me wrong, when you watch it back, he does really well to get his knee so high over the ball and hit it into the ground, because I think what you often see with those is a player try and get the knee over and they either drag it wide or it hits the floor where, kind of like, as you say, those centre midfielders are pushing out to try and block the ball. Yeah,
Matt, I just want to stop you there. I often struggle getting the leg over as well, to be fair.
You're on 2 for 2 tonight, James. You're on fire.
Mate, I mean, not quite as quick this time, but still, still got it.
But yeah, I've seen a lot of criticism for James Beadle online. Again, I will openly admit I'm a big James Beadle fan. Should you argue that he saves it? He's 2 yards off his line and it loops over him, and the ball, before it actually loops the other side of him, is about 4 foot over the bar. Like, again, to me, it's one of those freak finishes where you will see occasionally. And again, it felt, as I say, this is why my head was so much on Mars, because it felt like the minute the first one went in, you were like, wow, fuck it, I know I've seen this movie before. I've seen this movie in the past 2 weeks. I know exactly what is going to happen here. I think, again, it goes back to that point that you were making of, what is Barry Bannon doing in a box? Like, that has to be coaching. That has to be coach-led. That has to be, like, management-led. No, you got to get in the box and you've got to get the... No, put him on the edge. He's 4 foot nothing. What's he going to win? Like, no, but really, seriously, what kind of a header is he going to win? I know he's got a leap on him. I know he's got he's got the tenacity of a Rottweiler or a little Jack Russell who's kind of biting at people's heels or whatever. Put him on the edge of the box, because if that falls to the edge of the box, he is facing his own goal, gets a touch in the back, goes down, we relieve the pressure. Like, having 10 men in your box, in my opinion, just creates panic. And it's what we've seen the past couple of weeks. If you crowd it, as you say the ball falls to the edge of the box and Mowat gets a shot off, even if it doesn't do what it does, if it deflects off somebody and sends Beadle the other way, it's in the back of the net regardless.
Yeah.
Like, more bodies does not mean better defending. More bodies just mean there's more people to get through. And actually, from an attacking perspective, more bodies means there's more people to use as a blocker for the one person who you want to receive that ball. So actually, to me, it comes down to, yeah, you could argue it's a goalkeeping error. For me, it's not. It's a freak finish. But for me, again, it comes down to those systems and the setup that we have from defensive set pieces, which causes us so many problems.
Yeah, I want to make this point as well, because Glenn tweeted us at WTID pod if you want to follow us, by the way. But yeah, his question was how a team of mainly senior pros went mad at a young goalkeeper because he made a mistake would do his confidence no good. Didn't like that. It was a big mistake that looked like it would cost us, but going mad at him won't help. What he's referring to there, because I saw it clearly by the comments, I don't think everyone did. When that ball goes in, I think there's Windass that's on the edge of the box and Bannon. Windass he's got his arms outstretched, almost like saying what the fuck's happened here, and Bannon is doing what he always does, and he's having a bit of a go, and you could see Beadle's clearly upset that he's let that go in. And I don't know whether he's saying that he can't see because of the sun. Obviously, the ball's coming from the moon when it goes in, or what. But he's not just taking it lying down. He's clearly visibly not agreeing with what's being said, and I just think in that moment I've seen some comments. I'll read one of them out from Tom. He's playing men's football and gets plenty of praise, and he should be able to accept criticism as well. He's a bloke, not a child, and he needs to learn from his mistakes. While I fully agree with what Tom's saying there, I think there's a time and a place. I think after the game, yeah, you can say what's needed, and I get it's all heated in the heat of the moment, but not everyone's doing that. Do you know what I mean? He didn't have 10 players turn at him and go, "Fucking hell, Beadle, you fucking shit," whatever was said to him. There was two players there, two seniors, two players who have been at Sheffield Wednesday for a long time, and maybe they're doing that because it means a lot to them playing for Sheffield Wednesday. I'm sure everyone else also says it means a lot as well, but I don't know. I didn't like it. I think it's not going to help. It's not because he's a young lad. I just don't think it helps. We're not in the 1980s anymore. You can. I think sometimes when you watch other football and the player makes a mistake, you do want someone to come around you and be like, come on, because Beadle's going to feel shit regardless. He's not going to think, fuck it, just let a goal in. He's going to be fuming that he's not saved it, even whether he could or whether he couldn't. He's kind of regardless. But what's your thoughts on it? Do you think there should be more of that kind of, that like kind of emotion let out or not?
I think, as you say, it's really difficult in the heat of the moment. For me, it goes back to knowing your players. Marvin Johnson, Josh Windass, Barry Bannon, you can scream at them all you want because that's what motivates them. Josh Windass, I would argue, plays his best football when he's getting stick from not only his teammates but the crowd as well. You see a reaction from him, and you get a reaction from him. Bannon is clearly motivated by other players going at him, and he leads. Barry Bannon leads by example in terms of how he plays and kind of like the quality that he tries to display on a pitch, rather than kind of motivating people. Marvin Johnson, exactly the same. The amount of times I've seen Marvin Johnson, Barry Bannon digging at one another. Famewo and Marvin Johnson got into it last weekend. It is constant between those types of players. I am just very much on the side of you've got to err with caution here. And I'm saying this because realistically, we haven't heard enough of James Beadle. We haven't heard him speak, literally pretty much ever, aside from kind of like his signing interviews. To me, there is something a little bit wrong with two experienced senior pros who are either in their 30s or approaching 30, screaming at a 19-year-old kid who is at full stretch and he's 2 yards off his line. Okay, it's completely different if that shot comes clean at him, he actually catches it, and then it just rolls through his legs and goes in. They're fine, go full at him. That is absolutely cardinal sin as a goalkeeper. But also goalkeeper is a completely different position on the pitch. And the other thing is on that point that I was making earlier, you don't see James Beadle berating his defenders. You don't see him berating Bannon or Windass after. Take the Sunderland one. When the ball goes into Windass from Beadle and then he puts it in the back of the net, you don't see James Beadle get up and start screaming at Josh Windass, you've got to take a touch there, what are you playing at, like all the rest of it. It's again, it comes down to individual motivations and kind of knowing your players. I agree with you. I think it was clear to see James Beadle was so frustrated yesterday because for him, realistically, he has been the goalkeeper who has been in for a team that has let two leads slip in the last 2 games. Now, whether they've been his faults or not, he is going to take that responsibility onto himself. Ultimately, who cares based on yesterday? Like, realistically, who cares because of the result that came as about it? But I do think that would have been a real big topic of conversation post the game because what's the alternative here? I mean, James Beadle is, 6'2", and has got a huge wingspan. Shea Charles is in the net, that goes in. Like, it goes over him. It's just a freak finish.
The thing for me as well, if he's passed it out from the back and just passed it to someone that shouldn't have received the ball, that's different. Or he's done something 3 times in a row. You think, you're not learning here. You need to stop doing it. Yeah. It's literally, it was probably a yard too far off his line, and the ball, like you said, it's total freak shot. You know, how often are you going to see shots like that? It's almost like one of them shots that when in training, when they have that thing where they hit it against it and it pings off in a different direction. Yeah. It's like one of them, like just total freak shot. That you're never going to get lobbed from there unless that happens. So it's just one of them things that happens in football. I mean, I must admit, at the time you're like, how's he got lobbed from literally the edge of the box like that? But when you watch it back, and I'm sure there's literally nothing that you can do. You just got to hold your hands up. And I just didn't like it. I just didn't like the way that those players are gone. And to be fair, that's one thing about Bannon that I don't like. I don't like the way that it comes across with some players sometimes. It's not just this season, it's the season before that. I've said it quite a lot. I remember last season, there was him and Volks was kind of like, good cop, bad cop. Volks would kind of console people and Bannon would go both barrels. But, like you said, we've won the game. It is what it is. But, maybe that's been picked up by someone else as well, or by the coaching staff, and perhaps have a word. We got the win. I didn't think it would come in. I did not think it would come in. I thought, if anything, I thought West Brom were going to win the game when it went to 2-2. But mental strength has been questioned at times. I saw messages in the Discord immediately when it went to 2-2 saying, I'd said the mental strength has been shit, and it shows it again. But 2 minutes later, bang, got balls in the back of the net. And can we just take a moment to Max Lowe? You've said you're not a fan. That pass from Max Lowe was absolutely inch perfect, weren't it?
Yeah, it's not the fact that I'm not a huge fan of Max Lowe. It's, I think, the fact that he's had a lot of criticism. Don't start
backpedaling now, Matt. I've got that T-shirt printed already.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think he's had a difficult start to his Sheffield Wednesday career in terms of, he looked brilliant on the opening day of the season and then clearly has found moving into that system and the way in which that we play football tough. The way in which that the ball gets worked back out to him is great. The ball into Bannon takes 3 players out of the game. And that's the kind of ball that you would see Bannon play to somebody else. It is a fantastic ball around the corner, finds the gap. Again, I think it's really smart from Bannon to spot the run. I would also like to credit the cross from Bannon as well, because it is so early and it's first time and there's no touch, look up, try and take a minute. It's first time, it's pure instinct. And then who is there? Golden boy Anthony Musaba, like he was doing last year, where he got on that run of scoring those late goals. If you are looking for a player who probably needed a confidence boost and somebody who has flattered to deceive since the start of this season, Anthony Musaba is that. Because we all pretty much would have had him pegged as being a really strong candidate for somebody who is probably got a chance of finishing with our player of the season. It's unfortunate that, Shea Charles has arrived, because that's only going one way now. But it's again, it's a high quality chance. It's a tap in from 3 yards. Again, West Brom perspective, you'll be fuming at not picking up the marking. You'll be absolutely livid. Michael Smith does something really good in terms of dropping off, laying the ball off, and it's kind of like a bounce back. It's a really, really good goal, and it's really well worked. But again, I completely agree with you, James. I didn't see it coming, because at that point, when that second one hit the back of the net, I thought, wow, we got 10 minutes to hold on for a point here when we were 2-0 up. And actually, yeah, we go on to take 3 points from a game, because actually after that, we marshalled the game so well. And we saw the game out really, really competently. We were, Jan Valery, there's a clearance from sort of like was it a corner, and Jan Valery, rather than running it and trying to whip a ball past the defender into Liam Palmer, he's running down to the corner, and it's just, it was almost like that third hit the back of the net, and not only the fans couldn't believe it, because there was that huge wave of relief. There was when that ball hit the back of the net. The celebration.
I think that was just from James Beadle, to be fair.
Yeah. But there's such a huge wave of relief that comes across the whole stadium, it felt like. And the one thing that I will say is it was very interesting to see a West Brom side who have been full of confidence, who have dragged themselves back into a game, which they were dead and buried in at half-time, that it completely went very flat from their end. Not only the fans, but also they looked fresh out of ideas again. And I think that's because we went back into that system that we were playing earlier, in terms of 5 across the back, really strong, tight block where we move across narrow and everybody looks a lot more comfortable. But again, I thought we saw the game out excellently, similar to what we did back end of last season.
Yeah, 100%. Right, I'm going to read a few of the 3-word match reviews out, and then we'll talk quickly on a few of the player performances. Stuart said best team wins. Tim's gone with need new keeper. Controversial, that one. Chef Cam's gone with being coming that. Wawa or Neil. Actually, by the way, Neil, who lives in Australia, won his over 35's cup final this weekend as well. So shout out to you, Neil. Well done, pal. Bannon the man. Ben's gone with lovely stuff, lads. Hong Kong Owl's gone with well-deserved win. Chaz has gone with Robin van Persie, or should be Robin van Windass, I think, to be honest. John T's was well-deserved. George, superstar from Monaco, read a few more out. Trusting role, made hard work. What a win, well saved Wednesday. Poor first substitution, someone's gone with. Firmino was outstanding, yep, agreed on that one. 2 games in a row, really. I thought it was outstanding against Luton as well. Kevin, midfield duo, fabulous. Confidence wins matches. I'll read one more out as well. Ugbo, off pace is what Chris says, and that segues perfectly into talking about the man, Ike Ugbo. Want to guess how many touches he had yesterday, Matt?
Handful is what
9.
It felt like. It didn't feel like many.
9 touches he had all game. Just to put that into comparison, Smith had 15 in the 20 minutes that he was on the pitch. So yeah, all right, 9 touches in 70 minutes. That was largely ineffective. I put a message in the Discord. If you take his fee that we signed him for was 2.5 million. I know it changes depending on where you look. £44,000 is how much every touch that Ike Ugbo has had this season has cost us. If you want to look at it like that,
you tight Yorkshire bastard. That's what you lot are. You
and that's
tight
touches.
Yorkshire bastards.
not goals. That's touches that he's had this season. He's had something like, I think he's had 56 touches, which again, that's what Barry Bannon has in one game. And right, I know he's come in. I know he hasn't started from the start. He has come in, but I just felt like I looked at that and I thought, yeah, that's probably what I expect really from what I saw. He didn't get into the game, and you know what? He's looked a yard off it ever since he's come in for us this season. It looks like is he not getting the service, or is he? Yep. Is he just? I don't know what it is, but he's. Because Smith comes on, and like I said, Smith gets 15 touches in 20 minutes. So we didn't suddenly just change the way that we play. I don't know. I'm not impressed with him so far this season.
I thought his defensive work yesterday was great, which for a striker is the lowest compliment that you can pay. in terms of. But I thought in terms of initiating kind of that shape, he was always there, and he was very good at being very, very disciplined. And because there were times yesterday where the crowd were going, "Go on, go at him!" Like when like a centre half had the ball and he was comfortable in sitting off. I think it's a combination of two things. One, I think it's the combination of not having a proper pre-season, because we heard every single player speak about how hard Danny had worked them and how much he'd run them. And you do have to be hella fit to play for this side, as has been seen by the fact that every single player looks dead on their feet at the final whistle. And I think the other one is we are not currently geared or built to play to his strengths in any way, shape or form. I think it's one of the other reasons why Bailey Kadamatri's gone out on loan. I think that's partly for his development, but currently we haven't got a system that suits him, and we haven't got a system that suits Ike Ogbo either at the minute. We've got a system that is geared towards a forward who we realistically want to get hold of the ball and to bring other people into play, which is I think why when Jamal Lowe has had his opportunities, I think we've actually seen probably more from Jamal Lowe than we have done from Ike Ogbo, because Jamal Lowe's recognised right from the start of the year, I need to be the player who links a lot of this. And that's not Ike Ogbo. That's all in his defence. In the criticism column, 1 goal against Grimsby is simply not good enough in coming up to 10 games now. Now, what we did see from Ike Ogbo last year is he did have the opportunity to catch fire. It doesn't look like his teammates are getting incredibly frustrated with him as of yet. In terms of, you don't see teammates screaming at him. You don't see the teammates kind of demanding more from him in terms of work rate or trying to create chances. I think his movement, actually, that you see for the first goal that we scored yesterday is actually really smart, because when the ball goes into Palmer, he actually runs the opposite way to which Liam Palmer is obviously going to play the ball, which does drag a centre-half with him. So that's, again, quite clever. But again, we're clutching at straws, really, aren't we?
We're not signing a striker £22.5 million for a clever run off the ball. Do you know what I mean?
No.
You're signing him to score goals, and I can't see him. I don't know where his goals are going to come from. Q2 goals on Wednesday against Bristol City, which normally happens when we start digging players out. And I think I'm digging him out, but I think it comes with. It's just the expectation, isn't it, that he did it last season. We saw what he could do with that last season, and he's just not really shown those same sides. I mean, we touched on kind of the service that he gets, and I'll just read you as well. When we've played largely with kind of 3 forwards, all right, there might be an attacking midfielder in there as well, but we've had these are the players that have started in those positions so far this season, and this is just the league, by the way, not in the cup. We've had Jedi Gassama, Paul Valentin, Josh Windass, Jamal Lowe, Ike Ogbo, Michael Smith, Anthony Musaba, and Olaf Kabatske. And there's 3 positions there, or stretched to 4 potentially. That's a lot of players that have started the games this season in the league for not a lot of positions, if you know what I mean. It's not like we've got a settled start. And look, the way that we've started this season, I don't think there's been any time where I've gone, right, that team should play next week. Other than the first game of the season, there's not been many where I've gone, definitely the same 11 next time. But it screams that we're not really, Danny doesn't really know what his forward lineup should be. He's trying to fight. He's trying to work that out and figure it out. But I think you can also see that when you look at just the 3 number 9s that we've played with, Jamal Lowe started 3 games, Ike Ogbo started 3, and Michael Smith started the other one last week against Luton. Now, it's nice to have 3 different types of striker, because what's point in having 3 of exactly the same? But in the same token, they are so different. Lowe's got that bit of pace, Ugbo's that fox in the box, and Michael Smith's your hold up merchant. Whereas, but all the other players have got to realise that these players that they're playing with are different, and I think sometimes we're not seeing that. Certainly last week anyway, against Luton, or the week before against QPR, there was the instance that I spoke about with Ugbo and Windass not really knowing what each other's going to do, but it all comes with playing with each other as well, and we can't. There comes a point where we've got to stick with a front 3. Who's that going to be? Is it going to be Windass seems to have got first pick on playing on that right hand side. Who's going to play through the middle, and is it going to be Kabatski on the left? Is it going to be Musaba? Because now you're going to look and Musaba's going to be going, Gaffer, I scored when I came on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he's going to start then, and there's going to be a point where we've got to stick with a three that we trust.
I think you've made a really interesting point there in terms of the rotation between not only the forwards but also the wide players as well. Again, I've mentioned it before, but I will go back to it. Where we saw the best of Ike Ugbo last year was where it was around the box, there was a little bit of slow build-up play and then a really quick turn of pace by a wide player to then reverse the ball back onto the edge of the 6-yard area, penalty spot, and he taps it in. Plymouth, we created those chances, but he wasn't at the club. Sunderland, we created fuck all. Yeah. Millwall, we created fuck all. QPR, it took until a Barry Bannon wonder goal for him to score. Luton, he wasn't on the pitch when Barry Bannon put the ball in the back of the net, and it's another wonder goal. Yesterday was the first opportunity where we actually saw somebody get to a byline and cut it back. That is what that player is for, and getting the ball into players around the box. If you're looking at Josh Windass, I think, likes to deliver the ball early because he's not got the pace to go round players on the outside. Olaf Kabatsky coming in from that left-hand side, I think it would be criminal to, I mean, just on that point, I think it would be criminal to try and kind of like cut up that partnership that him and Marvin Johnson have created, because I think they complement one another so well.
Yeah.
But what we've seen from Olaf Kabatsky, what he wants to do is not get to the byline. He wants to draw a defender in and then try and whip it into the far corner.
Yeah.
Neither of those are geared towards getting Ike Ugbo goals. So then what does it become? Because we don't currently, a lot of our chances don't come through centre of the, they don't come through the centre of the pitch. They come from wide, and they come from wide players coming onto the ball. At the moment, Michael Smith or Jamal Lowe are more suited to the way that we're playing football. Now, if in January or before January, where the players drop in form or players dip in form, and Anthony Musaba and Jeddy Kasama somehow find themselves back in those positions, you will see a better output from Ike Ugbo if he is in and around it. But you're asking a lot here, because we spoke about it pre-season, didn't we, with the idea of Ike Ugbo coming in. There are a lot of people queuing up for 3 positions here. And it's great to have those options, because last year we didn't have any. But what we saw of not having many options from that is the benefit of we have got a goal scorer at the club. But if you are not going to give him a run, realistically, what he needs is a run of 6 games, where the manager just goes in and says, "Don't matter what you do." Okay, Bristol, when you've got 2 games over the course, or 3 games over the course of a week, say, all right, we'll sack it off. Wednesday, you'll only do 60 minutes, but your Saturday games, those are yours. You will play and you will start. Go and get yourself some form. And you can drag him off if it's not working, but you've got to, as you say, you've got to make a decision, because chopping and changing at the minute, Michael Smith and him are so different,
Yeah.
that it's doing, I don't want to say it's doing nobody any favours, because ultimately we won the game yesterday. But at the minute, that is the only position on the pitch which realistically is, in my opinion, is realistically up for debate. Everything else is pretty much set in stone. Like, you can't, I know Anthony Musaba scored yesterday. You're still going to have to wait your turn, because Olaf Kabatsky's done enough to keep the shirt. Jeddy Kasama, I am really surprised to see how far off this team he is at the minute. Like, I'm really surprised. He's nowhere, is he? He's not
even getting a sniff. He's not even coming off the bench, is he? Like, I mean, I'm just going to have a look now, actually, when his last minutes were. He
was hooked at Luton, wasn't he? He come on at half-time at Luton and then was hooked after the red card.
Yes, he was, yeah. And then it was Blackpool in the cup. He played 62 minutes against Millwall, 20 minutes against Leeds, 45 minutes. Yeah, he got dragged at half time, didn't he, against Sunderland? Yeah. And then he played 75 minutes against Plymouth at the start, and we all thought, fucking hell, this is it. Musaba, Gassama, it's going to be like, top of the league, here we come. But yeah, he's kind of flattered to deceive after that, and. Yeah. And yeah, it just proves the point that we're struggling in terms of finding out what our best attacking lineup's going to be. And also as well, it's funny how you mentioned we're going to get more from Ugbo if he plays with Musaba and Gassama. It's funny how Ugbo's come into the side and started, and those two have then not started as well. It's like their form's dropped just as Ugbo comes in, and then we're not seeing it from Ugbo. So. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how long we persist with Ike Ugbo not really showing a great deal. I mean, whilst you're winning, you can kind of put up with it, that we've beaten West Brom, but it's how long we can carry on without him getting a goal, because then we start talking about goal droughts and stuff like that. Let's talk about Shea Charles then.
The boy.
Yes, picked up the man of the match during the game. 3 blocks, 3 interceptions, 2 tackles, most combined of all the players on the pitch yesterday. The way that I would describe Shea Charles is just cool, calm and collected. He just does not look like there's a rush in him, and he's got a decent tackle as well. He put one in on the halfway line, which is a strong tackle, and he can take one as well. You know, the other guy came in on him and he weren't whinging, rolled around. He's a strong old boy, and would you agree, man of the match yesterday?
Yeah, I'll just comment, Nathan, in the chat. He's right. He wasn't in goal yesterday, but he fucking should have been, because we wouldn't have conceded 2, mate. He's that good. For me, he is the missing piece of what's been missing in this midfield. And it was what was missing in this midfield all last year. I think we patched it last year with Will Vaulks. But again, in the summer, this was exactly the type of player who we said needs to be brought in. I will also say he has got the best out of Bannon. He has got the best out of Liam Palmer. How disciplined this young man is for the position that he plays frees up experienced professionals to just go and play their game. Realistically, this is the type of discipline that you would expect to see from a fellow experienced professional, because him being that anchor, him sitting in that, let's get all Anaraki, that 6 position, like him sitting in that, you see him drop into defence, you see him fill in at right back, you see him fill in at left back, you see him cover the jobs of both Liam Palmer and Barry Bannon when we're out of possession, you see him win the ball, you see him play everything first time, you see him drive forward with the ball. It's like I have got proper love goggles on for him at the minute, because he's just you can tell he's not our player. I had a very, very similar sort of experience watching Ross Barkley at Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah. It was when Ross Barkley was here, you were like, oh my God, he's just a cut above. Now, Ross Barkley was a lot more glam than Shea Charles is, because Shea Charles isn't going to get... I'd love it if he scores this year. Legitimately, I'd love it, because I think it's something that... I think that is pretty much the only thing that's really missing from his game at the minute, is that ability to drive forward. But it is everything.
He's not scored yet in his professional career.
Come on, 10th of November.
32 appearances for Southampton so far, 1 for Man City and 4 for us, of course, and even in international as well, even right down to under 16, which is listed on his Wikipedia page. No goals as of yet. So I was about to say, go on then. What do you think his celebration is going to be?
I think it'll be something very calm and collected, because that's what he is. I was going to say, if it was me and I'd never scored a professional goal, fucking hell, my head would be coming clean off.
Do you think he's going to run to the corner flag and do a double knee slide or something like that?
A double knee slide that goes wrong and he falls forward. Yeah, it'll be something that flatters to deceive, won't it? But yeah, he's just... Again, I am getting ahead of my station, because again, we know with this player there is little chance of us actually seeing him sign permanently for Sheffield Wednesday. It definitely won't be in the summer window. Years down the line when he might come back and everyone's like, "Oh my God, what a player!" He's gone at the end of the season, because
it's funny actually. Matt said on the when we asked for topics of discussion, he's put how we get to keep Shea Charles beyond January, and someone's put injure him, then tell Southampton, don't worry, we'll take care of wages. But yeah, I think the way we keep, to be honest, on that, Southampton in the Premier League, I don't think, just because he has a good kind of half of the season, I don't think there's any worry of Southampton then saying, "Oh, we'll have him," because can he make that jump up? I mean, it depends on where Southampton are and whether they can or can't spend any money in the January transfer window. But I think for his development, it's one of them ones. If he's playing well and he's playing regularly, unless he's going to go straight into the Southampton side, keep him where he's playing well and then use him for next season. I think the Southampton fans were saying it's just like them getting promoted was kind of the worst thing for Shea Charles, because he's just a little bit. It's just that one step too much. It was probably, his next move would be probably playing first team regular football in the Championship every single week for Southampton. Not really doing that in the Premier League, But yeah, right. We've already talked about Bannon. Really, I mean, there's loads of players that we could talk about, but this episode could be 4 and 5 hours long if we carry on. We've got 2 games coming up this week, both away from home. Are you going to both or one, or which ones are you going to?
Yeah, I've got tickets for both. Bristol is very much dependent on what time I get out of work on Wednesday, because Wednesday is my I know I'm a teacher. Wednesday is my late finish, but yeah, it's Wednesday is my late finish, so it depends.
Well, at least it's a bit closer for you though, Matt.
Yeah, and that is the only upside to this, is even if I get out of work at 4:10, there is a good chance of me still being able to get down there and make kickoff. With it being a later kickoff, it's 8:00, isn't it, on Wednesday night rather than 7:45? So I do have a good chance, but I'm also very aware that I live in South Birmingham next to the M42, which is always blocked with somebody crashing into somebody, and then it's the M5, which is always blocked because somebody's crashing into somebody.
Driving shit in it.
Oh, it's crap.
It really is. It really is. And that's why I'll be doing a lot of cycling in October for, as if you're watching on YouTube, Prostate United, which if you'd listened to last week's episode, you'll find. And they kindly presented me with this fetching football shirt as well, so thank you very much. So yeah, I'll be doing a lot of cycling. I'm not cycling to Bristol though, because that's
no, that is a mile,
a long way, very very long. Not that I can't do it, but yeah, not on a Wednesday night when it'll probably be pissing it down as well. To be fair,
yeah,
I will be missing kickoff if I
yeah, that's the case. Yeah, you'll have to set off now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get to both. But if not, I'm definitely at Coventry next weekend. But I am hoping to get to Bristol City, because ultimately at the minute it's good watching Wednesday. The last 3 games have been good watching Wednesday. Don't get me wrong, it was a slog when it was like Millwall and Leeds and all of the rest of it. But at the minute, yeah, the results in the previous 2 have been annoying. But the performances have been really good, and you can't be too critical of it realistically. So actually, yeah, it is fun watching Wednesday at the minute, because I think as a fan what you're going to get. Bristol City is, I think we've benefited from the fact that they've played Swansea today, which is Sunday, and we've had an extra day's rest, which is a bonus. I know we're travelling, but we have also had the benefit and the additional day's rest. Coventry is the one that I'm very much looking forward to, because I swore blind last year coming out of that bloody CBS Arena after the second time of going there in the FA Cup. I'm never coming here again. I've never seen us play well here. It's all shit. I'm never. And then of course, obviously, when the tickets come out, I was like, yeah, go on then. Why not?
Yeah.
But that's
I've got my ticket for Coventry, so I'll be.
Amazing!
I'll be there on Saturday. The steepest stand in the world. If you've got vertigo, don't go to Coventry, because you'll be or pray to God that you sat on row A, because you will be struggling from that. It's one steep ground. Let's quickly talk on Bristol City then first. Like you mentioned, it's on Wednesday at 8:00. They've started okay. They've 2 wins, 3 draws, and 2 defeats. Drew, like you mentioned, with Swansea, 1-1 today. They've I suppose Bristol City are kind of where we expected them to be, really, so far. In terms of the games that they've had, I'll have a quick look. They've let's just filter it for Championship. A draw against Hull, Coventry, and Swansea. The wins have come against Oxford and Millwall, a 4-3 thriller in the second weekend of the season. The defeats, both away from home, 3-0 batterings against Derby and Blackburn. So they've looking at the sides that they've played, I suppose they'll be a bit disappointed that they've not picked up more points, because they've not really played any top sides there when you look at it. But they're kind of where I expect them to be honest.
Yeah, I think we owe them also one from last season, being down
100%.
at Bristol City with the Bannon Red. It's a game that I'm looking forward to. I do like Liam Manning's football that he has all of his teams playing. It always takes him a half a season to get it really bedded in. But again, these were my outside tip for playoffs at the start of the season. But again, as you say, I think at the minute, famous last words, it could be a good time to catch them, because actually they haven't really played anybody who's going to put up that stern a test. They've had almost the exact opposite start to what we've had in terms of kind of like the sides that they've played. And we are on a, keep saying it, points don't say it, but we are actually playing really well at the minute. So I'd be really interested. I'm also very interested to see what the side's going to be, because it's the first time, I think, for a while that it's not been a cup game where you would expect 11 changes to be made, that we've actually, we've got a league game. So I will be very interested to see what team it is that he takes down to there and puts out, with one eye obviously on the weekend, because it's another trip down that neck of the woods in terms of back, straight back up and down the M1 and M5 to for Coventry. So I will be interested to see what team he puts out. I'm very, very tentatively suggesting that actually that is one which prior to the fixture at the weekend against West Brom, this was the one that I had circled as this is the one that maybe you win. But then saying that, Coventry the following weekend, that is a golden opportunity, because they are in all sorts of problems at the minute, Coventry, in terms of it's just not. That reeks of Middlesbrough rocking up at Hillsborough last year, doesn't it? But they are very much like, they have, from where everybody expected them to go, they have been really slow starters at the minute, and the natives down there are not very happy at all.
Yeah, I mean, just on Bristol, I looked. Ashton Gate, we've lost on those last 2 visits there. Last time we won was 2020 in COVID. Connor Wickham and Massimo Luongo scored in a 2-1 win. We also beat them by that same scoreline a couple of years before, 2018, a couple of days before my birthday. There, 7th of October, 2018. Lucas Schwau with two goals in 2 minutes in the second half, and a penalty from them was not enough. So yeah, I mean, I'm lucky as well. To be fair, I think that's like, there's not many times that we have actually beaten Bristol City at their place. It's been, not a very happy hunting ground, but hopefully it is on Wednesday. But yeah, as you mentioned, Coventry. If we happen to beat Bristol City in midweek, we could be going into that game at the weekend full of confidence. And yeah, like you mentioned, I've said Bristol City are where I expected them to be. Coventry, I've not really expected them to be where they are. They are really, really struggling. They've lost 4 of the last 5 games, all right, in all competitions. That did include a 2-1 defeat at Tottenham, so I will let them off. But slapped 3-0 against Leeds, beaten by Swansea 2-1. They couldn't beat Watford either. They lost to Norwich. Like, they're really struggling. I mean, they've got Blackburn on Tuesday, I think that is, which. They're flying, Blackburn. Literally last season you'd be like, that's a nailed on Coventry win. Fast forward this season, Blackburn are flying, Coventry is struggling, and you'd probably say it's the opposite. But yeah, I think it's a great opportunity again to come up against a side that's struggling and take 3 points that you perhaps at the start of the season wouldn't really put us down as having, I guess.
Yeah, agreed 100%. And it's also, I think, in terms of the atmosphere there on Boxing Day last year was, in my opinion, the best atmosphere that Sheffield Wednesday fans were involved in that wasn't a Hillsborough crowd last year, in terms of their home support last year on that Boxing Day. I'm convinced everybody was still pissed from the day before, because it was the loudest that I have been at a game for a long, long time. They were great. And up until that point when they played us last year, they were kind of struggling again. And then we rocked up, at Charity FC rocked up last year and turned it round for them. I would imagine it's going to be similar next Saturday, because they will be seeing this as a golden opportunity up until obviously the recent win. And as you say, if we do manage to get any sort of a result down at Bristol City, whether that be a draw or whether that be a win, this side should be going in full of confidence to that fixture. We've got nothing to fear from that side at the minute. And it is a good opportunity to go. And wouldn't it be nice to actually go and just lay one on a team once? Whereas we've spoken, I've just mentioned Charity FC. It's very often that we rock up to grounds where that team's in appalling form and we all sit there going, we know what's going to happen here, and nobody turns up and we lose 2-0 and everybody goes home thoroughly depressed. Wouldn't it be really nice to just turn up and beat them 2-1, 2-0, 1-0, whatever, and it's never in doubt the entire time? So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it next weekend and Wednesday.
Yeah, I am as well. Like I said, I'll be there at Coventry. Before we wrap things up, I wanted to speak about this earlier, but Kevin's commented about it. So let's just rewind back to the match, because I do want to point this out. In the post-match press conference, the chat with Radio Sheffield, Danny Röhl referenced the crowd and the atmosphere yesterday. Kevin said, was it necessary for DR to comment that the crowd was too quiet? What's your take on that? Because for me, I felt like, yes, it did. It was a strange atmosphere yesterday. I felt the fact that we were 2-0 up. I think it was more probably down to a bit of shock more than anything. But the other thing, I think for me, I don't think it helps being half 12. I just don't think there ever is, unless it's a derby against United. I don't think the atmosphere is ever going to be amazing, and also, I don't think us as a fan base we're very reactionary. We have to react to something that's happened on the pitch, and when you're only having 30% possession, and you're not having a lot of the ball, especially in the second half, where obviously it was still 2-0. At that point, up until 60 odd minutes, there wasn't a lot other than the scoreline. There wasn't a lot to cheer about. So, and also, I don't quite like you digging out the fans. We turn up in his numbers, 26,000 fans. They were there. All right, I know West Brom brought quite a few as well, but I don't know. I just think like a bit unnecessary for him to do that. I see like Premier League managers doing that and saying that the crowd's quiet and stuff, and I don't know. It just -1 for Danny Real on that one. I think for me,
I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because ultimately, if you get up for every game of football, how do you kind of like show that one game's more important than the other? But if you're up for every single game of football, the atmosphere at Peterborough doesn't happen. If you're up for every single game of football, like it just if that was every single game, fucking hell, everybody would be home shattered. Like, and I'm genuinely, I'm not trying to be horrible here. English fan culture is not the same as, say, German fan culture, where it is constant noise for 90 minutes. And, because if it was, the entire cop would be full of absolute nutters who are there an hour before the game and everybody's singing constantly and all the rest of it.
Yeah, we don't have all the flags and all the flares and all that sort of stuff. No. It's just not. We have pucker pies and Henderson's relish. Do you know what I
mean? But it's also, you look at, say for argument's sake, Arsenal or Palace who do that, because Arsenal have a section right next to the away end at the Emirates, which is a designated singing section. And I know these get a lot of stick. Palace do it as well, and that's really well received by sort of Palace fans because it does generate an atmosphere when it is quiet. From my opinion, yeah, the crowd was quiet yesterday, but you could insert any number of different quiet atmospheres that we've had at Hillsborough over the years. The bonus of that is that when the chips are down and when it does matter, that as fans, they will absolutely pack that stadium out and they will give all of the backing in the world like they did during the run-in last year. You can, for my money, you cannot expect those types of raucous atmospheres at the start of October. It just doesn't happen. Like, I get the league leaders, I get you've scored in the 86th minute, I get all of that, and the noise was better after obviously the 86th minute's gone in, because as you say, it's reactionary because we're reacting to something that's on the pitch. I agree with you. I think everybody was so stunned into fucking silence yesterday because everyone was getting there and thinking, poor. I don't know about you, I was sat there thinking, take a point here, take a point, and we're 2-0 up inside half an hour. I think everybody was sat there thinking, what's going on here?
Exactly. And like I said, we do react to things that happen on the pitch. And I think what he's forgetting is, I think you mentioned it right at the top, it went 2-2 and then there wasn't any getting on players' backs. I know it wasn't much time for us to do that because we scored pretty much straight after. But there was that, what I love to hear as well, it went 2-2 and there was that, come on Wednesday, a cheer and a come on, I think we did it after it was 2-1 as well. It wasn't it was encouraging rather than the heads down and this is it. Even though that's what you might be thinking in your head, there was that cheer. So yeah, I didn't quite agree with it. Yeah, it was a bit quiet, but he didn't have to come out and say it because it just gets people's back up and I don't, we're doing his bit, you know what I mean? And they just need to do theirs on the pitch, which 3-2 win. Happy days. Right, I'm going to wrap things up. We've ran on a bonus 15 minutes there for everyone. So massive thanks everyone that's been listening. I said last week or in midweek that we're back with a debate show at Wednesday. Well, we're not, because obviously we're playing Bristol City on Wednesday. I'm not sure if it's going to be Tuesday or Thursday. keep an eye on the socials at WTID Pod, and you'll find out when the debate show is going to be. But thank you very much everyone for getting involved. Lots of comments on YouTube, which we always love to see as well. And we'll see you all. We'll see you all for the extra time where we're talking about gambling in football. So head over to patreon.com/WTID Pod to find it all there. But thank you very much, and we'll see you all next time. Cheers.